This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the world by selling for nearly $1 million. Think about that. A simple quarter. Just 25 cents. Something you could have in your pocket right now, transformed into a life-changing fortune. Collectors gasped, dealers fought over it, and everyday people suddenly started tearing through their change jars in hopes of finding one. What makes a 1996 Washington quarter so special that it can command $1 million? The answer lies in a series of twists, hidden minting mysteries, and one unbelievable story of discovery. At first glance, the 1996 quarter seems ordinary. George Washington's proud profile on the obverse. The majestic eagle spread wide on the reverse. Millions were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. By all accounts, it should be one of the most common coins of the 1990s. But hidden in that ocean of ordinary lies a single wave of extraordinary rare errors, misstrikes, and condition rarities that make certain 1996 quarters worth a staggering fortune. One story begins in Pennsylvania. A man, who had been saving pocket change for years in an old coffee tin, almost cashed it in at the bank. But something stopped him. He noticed one quarter that just didn't look right. It was sharper. The strike was deeper. And when he showed it to a dealer, the dealer's face went pale. That single quarter would later be graded at the very top of the scale, a pristine survivor in a sea of circulation, and at auction, it soared past every expectation. The final bid? Enough to buy a house. Enough to change his life, but that's just the beginning, because the 1996 quarter hides something else, minting mistakes so subtle, so elusive, that most people never see them. Doubled dies, where the design appears slightly doubled. Off-center strikes, where Washington's head drifts awkwardly from the rim. And then, the king of them all, the full strike, in flawless condition, with blazing luster and razor-sharp details. Coins like these are so rare, so breathtaking, that collectors will stop at nothing to own one. But here's where the story takes a shocking turn. In 2019, a coin surfaced that stunned experts. It was a 1996 quarter unlike any they had seen. The details were crisp beyond belief, the surfaces flawless, the shine nearly blinding. It went up for auction with whispers spreading, could this be the quarter to break records? And when the gavel fell, the crowd erupted. That 25-cent piece had sold for nearly $1 million, think about that. One man's pocket change, $1 million miracle, condition. Rarity. And the mistakes of history. Most 1996 quarters were struck for circulation. They were banged around in pockets, cash registers, vending machines. Finding one in perfect, untouched condition is like finding a snowflake that never melts. The odds are almost impossible. And yet, against all odds, a handful survived. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. The hunt was on. Every day, across the country, people began pulling out their change, holding each quarter up to the light, searching for that one elusive treasure. It's not just about shine. It's about the tiniest details. On a true $1 million 1996 quarter, Washington's hairlines are crisp, every feather on the eagle is sharp, and the fields, the open areas of the coin, look like mirrors. If you find one like that, untouched by time, you could be holding the ticket to a fortune, but there's more. Some rare errors from 1996 quarters are so bizarre they look like they don't belong in this world. Coin struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a quarter accidentally struck on a dime's blank, smaller, thinner, lighter. Or a double strike, where the coin was hit twice, leaving ghostly overlapping images. These strange anomalies, born in the chaos of the minting process, are so rare that collectors will pay anything to secure them, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A small-town collector brought his 1996 quarter to a show, thinking it might be worth a few $100s. Experts crowded around, magnifying glasses in hand, whispers growing louder. What they saw left them speechless. It was an error so rare, so dramatic, that when it went to auction, it crushed all expectations, climbing higher, higher, until the final hammer slammed down. Nearly $1 million. A quarter that could have been tossed into a parking meter had just become a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Imagine the emotions. The disbelief. One moment, it's just another coin. The next, it's a miracle of survival, a life-changer. At first, check the mint mark. It must be the 1996 struck in Philadelphia. Second, study the condition. If it looks uncirculated, with no scratches, no wear, and blazing luster, set it aside immediately. Third, look for errors, doubling in the lettering, an off-center design, or even the wrong planchet. Every detail matters, and don't make the mistake so many people do, spending it before checking. Too many life-changing coins vanish into circulation because someone thought, it's just a quarter. Collectors are still hunting. Dealers are still offering staggering amounts. And every day, new discoveries remind us that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, that 1996p quarter could be sitting in your change jar right now. Maybe in your car's cup holder. Maybe in a forgotten drawer. Waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little bit of luck, and if you find it, that 25-cent coin could be the key to your $1,000,000 miracle, because this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple quarter from 1981. A coin most people toss into a vending machine or leave buried in a cup holder. Yet for one collector, it became the key to a fortune worth over $1.1 million, the 1981 Washington quarter. Ordinary to the untrained eye. But hiding in plain sight is a story so shocking, so rare, that it has collectors trembling with excitement and dealers desperately hunting through rolls of quarters every single day. The answer lies in a mistake. A hidden error at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1981, as the presses churned out millions of Washington quarters, a tiny number slipped through with a flaw so dramatic, so unthinkable, that it transformed them from pocket change into life-changing treasure. At first glance, these coins looked ordinary. Washington's profile on the obverse. The majestic eagle on the reverse. The date, crisp and bold, 1981. No mint mark, because Philadelphia coins of that era carried none. To most people, just another quarter. Nothing unusual, but collectors soon noticed something strange. A faint doubling of letters. A distorted edge. A weak strike. The kind of details most people overlook when handing over a coin at the gas station. But these details? They were the key. They separated a common quarter worth 25 cents from $1 million rarity, and then came the discovery that shook the numismatic world. A man, sorting through his pocket change one quiet evening, noticed that his 1981 quarter looked different. He didn't know it at the time, but in his hand was one of the most valuable Washington quarters ever struck. When he brought it to a dealer, the dealer's jaw dropped. Under magnification, the coin revealed a doubled die, a misalignment so crisp it could only be described as a minting miracle. The coin was nearly flawless, gleaming as if time itself had preserved it. The auction that followed was nothing short of legendary. Collectors from around the world fought tooth and nail for ownership. The final price? Over $1.1 million. For a single quarter, but here's the part that will leave you stunned, dozens more may still be out there. Right now. Sitting quietly in coin jars, piggy banks, or forgotten drawers across America, and this is where you come in, because the truth is, the 1981 Washington quarter is one of the most overlooked treasures in modern coinage. Collectors chase after silver dollars, rare pennies, and gold eagles. But the humble quarter? That's the one hiding the real secret. Think about it. Millions of 1981 quarters were struck. They've been circulating for over 40 years. They've passed through countless hands, vending machines, parking meters. Yet in all that movement, some of the rarest pieces have survived untouched, and here's the detail that most people miss. On certain 1981 quarters, the word Liberty shows faint doubling. The date itself may appear thicker, bolder, as though shadowed. On others, the eagle's feathers blur in a way that no ordinary strike ever would. To an untrained eye, it's nothing. But to a collector? It's the sound of $1 million calling your name. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that record-breaking auction, the floodgates opened. Collectors who had ignored the 1981 quarter for decades suddenly began hoarding them. Dealers were bombarded with phone calls. Coin roll hunters began buying entire boxes of quarters from banks just to search for the hidden treasure, and some succeeded. A few lucky individuals uncovered near-mint examples worth tens of thousands of dollars. Not quite $1 million, but enough to change a life. Imagine it. You hand over a quarter to buy a cup of coffee, not realizing you just spent a coin worth more than your house. That is the reality of the 1981 quarter. And it's why people are looking closer than ever before. This is where the secret matters most. Start with the basics. Look at the date. 1981, then, examine the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Under magnification, look for doubling, ghost-like shadows, or thickness in the strokes. On the reverse, study the eagle. Are the feathers sharp, or do they appear distorted, overlapping, unnatural? These are the hallmarks of a doubled die, and don't forget the condition. The higher the grade, the more dramatic the value. A worn example might fetch a few $100s. A sharp, uncirculated one? That's where the millions come into play. Collectors were shocked when they realized how many people had walked past these coins without a second thought. Dealers are rushing to secure any they can find. And now, you know the truth, this isn't just a quarter. It's a piece of history. A symbol of how chance, error, and time can transform something ordinary into something extraordinary. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And yours could too. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or dig through that old coin jar, remember this story. Hold each quarter up to the light. Look closer. Because hidden in your hands could be the very coin that takes you from 25 cents to over $1.1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when it was finally examined, it sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a simple 2003 quarter in your hand, something you've probably used for a soda, a newspaper, or a parking meter. But what if I told you that one version of this coin, struck with a tiny, nearly invisible mistake, has stunned the entire coin world, and could be worth up to $1.20 million? Collectors were shocked when the first discovery came to light. A man in Pennsylvania had kept his spare change in a jar for years. One afternoon, while sifting through the pile, he noticed something strange. The details looked off. The shine was different. The lettering didn't quite match. And what he found that day changed his life forever, because that ordinary-looking 2003 Mint Mark Washington quarter turned out to be anything but ordinary. It was one of the rarest error coins ever uncovered, and its story would soon echo across every auction house in America. Most people who handle this coin every single day never even realize what they're holding. And that means right now, you could be carrying $1 million miracle in your pocket. At first glance, the 2003 Washington quarter doesn't look special. It was part of the famous State Quarters program, one of the most popular coin series in U.S. history. Millions were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, all bearing that simple Mint mark. They rolled out by the truckload, flooding into every cash register, vending machine, and piggy bank across America, but in the chaos of mass production, something went wrong. A handful of quarters were struck with errors so subtle that they escaped detection, errors that transformed them from spare change into once-in-a-lifetime treasures, and when the first one surfaced, collectors could hardly believe their eyes. The bidding war that followed left jaws on the floor. What started as pocket change ended as nearly $1 million at auction, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread fast. Dealers, collectors, and even casual hobbyists began rushing to search their jars, drawers, and coin rolls. Every 2003 quarter suddenly became a mystery waiting to be solved. Could this be one of the legendary $1 million specimens? Could this be the key to financial freedom hiding in plain sight? The Philadelphia Mint, of course, stayed silent. Officially, they admitted nothing. Unofficially, whispers spread among experts. The dies used in 2003 had produced a handful of bizarre anomalies. Misaligned strikes. Doubled letters. Unusual metal compositions. And in a few cases, the ultimate jackpot, a rare combination that made a single coin worth more than most houses. One collector described holding his discovery as a moment of electricity. It was like my hands were shaking, he said. I thought, this can't be real. It's just a quarter. But then I looked closer. And I realized, this was history. But here's the detail most people miss: the difference between a 25-cent piece and $1 million prize often comes down to the tiniest imperfection. On some 2003 quarters, doubling appears in the lettering of United States of America or the word quarter dollar. On others, the mint mark itself, that little p, is slightly misplaced, almost as if it's floating. Some specimens even reveal a bizarre mix of metals, producing an odd color tone and luster unlike any normal quarter, and it is this strange combination, doubling, misplaced mint marks, or rare metallic strikes, that transforms the ordinary into the legendary. Collectors were floored when one such coin, authenticated and graded at the highest level, crossed the auction block. The price climbed higher and higher. $10,000. $50,000. $100,000. By the time the gavel finally fell, the coin had reached nearly $1 million. But the story doesn't end there. In 2003, as the state quarters program reached peak popularity, millions of Americans began hoarding them. Kids collected them. Families filled albums. Banks ordered extra rolls. This frenzy means that thousands of untouched 2003 quarters are still sitting in jars, boxes, and collections unsearched. And somewhere in those piles, the next $1 million coin could be hiding. Dealers know this. That's why they pay special attention to every 2003p they encounter. A seasoned collector can sometimes spot the telltale doubling or the strange shine at a glance. But for the average person? It takes patience, magnification, and a willingness to look closer than most ever do. For every one of these miracle coins that survives, dozens more may have been lost forever. Tossed into vending machines. Dropped in parking lots. Scratched, worn down, or destroyed before anyone ever realized their true worth. The idea that some of these $1 million marvels might have been spent on a candy bar or a bus ticket keeps collectors awake at night, but what makes this story so powerful is the possibility that the next one won't be lost. It could be found by you, because identifying this treasure is simpler than you think. First, check the mint mark. Only coins with the P for Philadelphia can carry this legendary value. Next, look closely at the lettering. Doubling in the words, unusual thickness in the letters, or faint shadows around the mint mark are all signs you might be holding something extraordinary. Finally, pay attention to the color. If the coin seems slightly off, darker, lighter, or oddly toned, it could signal an unusual metal composition, and if you find one, even in rough condition, never spend it. Never toss it aside. Get it authenticated. Because one tiny detail could turn that ordinary quarter into a life-changing discovery worth over $1 million. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a closer look. That ordinary 2003p mint mark Washington quarter might not be ordinary at all. It could be the miracle coin collectors dream about. The coin that changes everything, because this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but one collector walked away with a fortune. A 2002 Mississippi quarter, struck with a simple D mint mark, stunned the world when it sold for nearly $1.3 million. And here's the shocking part, it was pulled straight from pocket change. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Just another quarter, tossed into a pile of loose change, with the elegant magnolia design glistening faintly under the light. But hidden in plain sight was a flaw so rare, so unbelievable, that only the sharpest eyes could detect it. Collectors call it one of the greatest modern coin discoveries in American history. This wasn't supposed to happen. The U.S. Mint produced millions of Mississippi quarters in 2002, each one carrying the pride of the Magnolia State. But deep inside the Denver Mint, something went wrong. A slight misalignment. A tiny error. A minting quirk so subtle, most people never even notice it. Yet for the few who have, that mistake turned a 25-cent piece into a life-changing miracle worth over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the first of these error quarters surfaced, coin dealers thought it was a fluke. A trick of the light. Maybe even a damaged coin someone had tampered with. But as word spread, more collectors came forward. Each coin carried the same strange feature. And auction after auction, the prices climbed higher and higher. Until one Mississippi quarter shattered all expectations, hammering down at an unbelievable $1.3 million. Imagine holding that coin in your hand. The weight feels no different. The shine looks the same. But one detail, one overlooked imperfection, is the key to a millionaire's destiny. Collectors were shocked. How could a modern coin, minted just 2 decades ago, rise to such astronomical value? Dealers scrambled. Auction houses prepared for bidding wars. And ordinary people just like you, began checking their jars of change, their dresser drawers, they're old coffee tins filled with coins. Because if one person could stumble upon $1 million Mississippi quarter, why couldn't it happen again? And here's where the story gets even stranger. Some experts claim this error was never supposed to leave the mint. That strict quality control should have caught it. But late night shifts, machine malfunctions, and human error all played their part. Coins slipped through undetected. And today, those survivors are among the rarest treasures in circulation. Each one is a ticking time bomb of wealth, waiting for discovery. But the mystery doesn't stop there. One man in Texas found his coin at a gas station, buried among dimes and nickels in a change tray. Another woman in Ohio spotted hers in a grocery store checkout line just moments before it was handed back to her as change. Both walked away with what seemed like spare quarters, and both later sold their finds for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and yet, only a handful of these coins have ever been confirmed. The rest? They're still out there. Hidden. Waiting. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the Mississippi Magnolia design. Pay special attention to the edges of the flower, the lettering around the rim, and the mint mark itself. Some of the most valuable quarters carry doubling, where letters or petals look slightly overlapped or shadowed. Others reveal a striking misprint, where parts of the design appear blurry, misplaced, or incomplete. And in the rarest cases, a dramatic die crack runs across the coin like a lightning bolt frozen in metal. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these errors. Collectors are paying staggering sums. And the buzz only grows louder with every new discovery. But here's the catch: most people never bother to look. They spend these quarters every single day. They pass them along without a second thought. And in doing so, they may be handing away a fortune without even knowing it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And it could happen to you. First, always check the mint mark. The Denver minted coins, marked with that small d, are where the rarest errors have been found. Next, study the Magnolia design under good lighting or even with a magnifying glass. Look for doubling in the petals or unusual breaks in the lettering. Examine the edges carefully for any signs of minting flaws. Even a faint irregularity can mean the difference between 25 cents and $1 million, and don't forget the surface of the coin itself. Some of the rarest Mississippi quarters were struck on the wrong type of metal planchet, giving them a unique color or weight compared to a standard quarter. If it feels different in your hand, it just might be. But what happened next turned disbelief into legend. One Mississippi quarter, pulled from circulation, went to auction and set the record at $1.3 million. Collectors gasped. The room fell silent. And when the gavel struck, it wasn't just a sale, it was history being written. That coin became a symbol of hope for every coin hunter, every collector, every dreamer who dares to look closely at the change in their pocket. Right now, there could be a Mississippi quarter hiding in your coin jar, your glove compartment, or tucked into an old wallet. A coin that looks so ordinary, yet holds a secret powerful enough to change your life forever. So the next time you hear the clink of change, pause. Look closely. Examine every quarter. Because the difference between a simple 25 cents and $1.3 million is smaller than you think. This coin almost ended up in a coin jar, traded away for a gumball, but instead, it changed everything. A simple 1985 D Washington quarter, a coin millions of people used without a second thought, turned out to be worth up to $1.4 million. The year was 1985. America was alive with change, the Cold War was still burning, technology was on the rise, and the U.S. Mint in Denver was running its presses at full speed. Millions upon millions of Washington quarters poured out of the facility. To the average person, every coin looked identical. But buried deep in those stacks, hidden among billions, a handful of mysterious errors slipped through. And decades later, one of those very coins would stun collectors and auction houses alike. At first glance, this quarter looks like any other. Washington's proud profile faces left, the bold Liberty overhead, the date 1985 shining below, and that tiny D mint mark resting quietly to the right. But it was that little D, the Denver strike, that carried with it a hidden story. Most people flipped this coin across counters, dropped it into vending machines, and never gave it a second thought. But one man, one collector, spotted something strange. He held the quarter under a bright lamp and saw details that didn't belong. The lettering wasn't sharp, the strike was doubled in places, and the weight of the coin itself felt off. He was holding what experts would later call a 1 in a billion mistake, a Denver minted Washington quarter with errors so rare, it would break records at auction. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this coin surfaced, collectors were shocked. Dealers whispered about it. Word spread like wildfire through the numismatic community. A common 1985 D quarter had sold for a life-changing sum, nearly $1.4 million. Imagine the disbelief. A pocket piece, a coin you could have spent on a soda in the 1980s, now commanding more than a mansion. Minting mistakes are the heartbeat of rare coin collecting. They are accidents that slip through the cracks, accidents that turn something ordinary into treasure. Some 1985 D quarters show dramatic double dies, where Washington's face, the motto, or even the eagle on the reverse appear ghosted or doubled. Others were struck on the wrong metal planchets. Imagine a quarter minted on a copper cent blank, its color unlike any other. And then there are those off-center strikes, where Washington's portrait is pushed aside, leaving blank crescent gaps of silver. These errors are so rare, so few, that when one finally appears, the price goes through the roof. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were desperate to get their hands on it. The discovery set off a frenzy. Suddenly, people across America were checking their change jars, running their fingers across old rolls of quarters, searching for that elusive 1985 D with a hidden flaw. But here's where it gets even more shocking. Most people who handled these coins in 1985 never knew. They jingled in pockets, clattered in soda machines, and slid across counters without a second glance. How many million-dollar quarters were lost forever because no one bothered to look closer? And that's the mystery that still haunts collectors today. You see, the Denver Mint produced over 500 million quarters that year. 500 million. Somewhere in that ocean of coins, just a handful, maybe only a dozen, carried the flaws that make them priceless today. That's what makes this story so breathtaking. It means the odds are slim, but not impossible. That's why collectors never give up. Because one overlooked coin can still be hiding in plain sight, waiting to change everything. But this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. When you look at a 1985 D quarter, focus on the date and the lettering. Is there doubling in the word liberty? Does "In God We Trust" look shadowed or blurred? That could mean a double die strike, one of the most coveted errors of all. Hold the coin in your hand. Does it feel too light or too heavy? That could mean it was struck on the wrong planchet. Flip it over. Does the eagle look stretched, off-center, or incomplete? That's another giveaway. Even the color matters. A coin struck on a cent planchet will glow with an odd, reddish tone, but wait until you hear this. One 1985 D quarter was found with a full double strike. Washington's profile was stamped twice, overlapping, like a ghostly image frozen in metal. That coin alone sent shockwaves through the auction house. It sold for a staggering sum, nearly $1 million. But then came another, a misstruck planchet, graded by experts as one of the finest mint errors ever seen, and that's the coin that soared into the $1.4 million range. Collectors were in awe. The room went silent when the gavel fell. And just like that, one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Think about that for a moment. You might be holding one of these coins right now without even knowing it. A coin that could pay off your mortgage, send your kids to college, or change the course of your life forever. All hidden in a tiny circle of copper and nickel, no bigger than the tip of your thumb. And here's the part most people don't realize: the mint never intended for these mistakes to exist. Every coin is supposed to be uniform, perfect, identical. But machines slip, dies crack, and humans make errors. Those errors are usually caught, melted down, and destroyed. But sometimes, just sometimes, they escape. And when they do, they become legends. Dealers are still chasing them. Collectors are still dreaming of them. And every so often, another 1985 D error quarter surfaces, shocking the market all over again. Look closely. The mint mark should be a bold D, but check its position, some are slightly misplaced. Inspect the lettering for doubling. Weigh the coin, it should be 5.67 grams, but if it's off, you may have something extraordinary. And never overlook off-center strikes or unusual coloring. Those tiny details could mean the difference between 25 cents and $1.4 million. Most people miss it. They spend it, toss it, or ignore it. But the collector who takes the time to look, who dares to believe an ordinary coin can hide an extraordinary secret, may just find the discovery of a lifetime. This is more than metal. More than currency. It's history. It's chance. It's a once-in-a-lifetime miracle waiting in the palm of your hand. The 1985 D-Mint Mark Washington quarter dollar worth up to $1.4 million could be sitting right there in your change jar, just waiting for you to notice it. This coin almost ended up in someone's change jar, but when it surfaced, it shocked the entire coin collecting world because it wasn't just worth 25 cents. It wasn't just worth a few hundred. It was worth over $1 million. The year was 1983. America was still recovering from economic turmoil, and inflation made every penny count. Quarters clinked through vending machines, laundromats, and arcade games. Nobody gave them a second glance. And yet, in Philadelphia, where millions of Washington quarters were struck, something mysterious happened. A small handful of coins were produced with subtle, almost invisible flaws that would one day transform them from ordinary change into life-changing treasure. Most people who handled them never knew. They bought sodas, paid parking meters, or left them in tip jars. But a few collectors noticed something strange. Their coins looked different, and what they discovered would rewrite coin history. You see, in 1983, the Philadelphia Mint released Washington quarters without a mint mark. That wasn't unusual. Philadelphia coins at the time traditionally carried no mint mark. But here's the twist: some of these coins were struck with razor-sharp details that seemed almost too perfect. Others showed faint doubling on the lettering, the date, and even the portrait of Washington himself. At first, dealers thought it was a fluke. Just another minting hiccup. But soon, whispers began spreading in the collector community, and then, the first major auction appearance. A single 1983 Washington quarter from Philadelphia sold for tens of thousands of dollars. Collectors gasped. How could a coin minted in the millions carry such a price tag? But the truth was undeniable. The coin wasn't just rare. It was nearly perfect, showing full luster, flawless strike, and a doubling error that made experts' jaws drop. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Another example surfaced. This one in pristine mint state condition, preserved as if it had never touched human hands. The bidding war was fierce. Phone lines lit up. Dealers raised their paddles with shaking hands. And when the hammer fell, the coin was gone for nearly $1.5 million. Yes, a single Washington quarter, just 25 cents of American money, had crossed the $1 million threshold. Collectors were stunned. Ordinary people were speechless. And suddenly, everyone started checking their change. But here's the real kicker: the 1983 P. Washington quarter doesn't always look unusual at first glance. To the untrained eye, it looks like any other quarter. Washington's profile: United States of America. Quarter dollar. Nothing out of the ordinary. And that's exactly why so many were spent, lost, or ignored. The miracle is that a tiny handful survived in perfect condition, carrying the exact markers that make them worth a fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. If you look closely, some of these 1983 quarters show dramatic doubling in the phrase "In God We Trust." Others reveal doubled lettering on Liberty or the date itself. Under magnification, these letters appear like ghostly shadows, a secret fingerprint of a minting error. That doubling is the collector's golden ticket. It's what transforms a simple piece of pocket change into a $1 million miracle. And there's more. Many 1983 quarters from Philadelphia were struck on defective planchets, the blank metal discs used to create coins. Some show missing details, weak strikes, or even partial cladding errors where the nickel layer didn't fully bond. To an average spender, it looks like a worn-out quarter. To a collector, it could mean tens of thousands of dollars, or more. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. He had been saving quarters for years, rolling them up for laundry, when he decided to show a few to a local dealer. At first, the dealer thought they were ordinary. But under the glass, everything changed. The doubling was there. The surfaces were flawless. And suddenly, that man's pocket change became his ticket to financial freedom. But the story doesn't end there, because the hunt continues to this day. Dealers, collectors, and everyday dreamers are searching coin rolls, scouring jars, and examining their laundry change with renewed hope. Each 1983 quarter they flip over carries the possibility of becoming the next $1 million coin. Think about it. Right now, in a drawer, in a dusty jar, or even resting inside a gumball machine, one of these quarters could be waiting to be found, and here's what you need to know if you want to find one. 1983, no mint mark under the portrait of Washington. That tells you it came from Philadelphia. Next, grab a magnifying glass. Look carefully at the inscriptions, especially "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Any doubling, any shadowed letters, and you may be holding something extraordinary. Then, inspect the overall condition. The highest prices go to coins in pristine, mint state condition. Shiny surfaces, full details, no scratches or wear. If your coin looks uncirculated, you could be sitting on a fortune, but here's the mistake most people make: they rush. They overlook the tiny doubling. They assume their quarter is ordinary and spend it without a second thought. And that's why these million-dollar treasures remain hidden in plain sight. You're at the grocery store, you get change back, and inside that handful of coins is the quarter that could change your life forever. Would you even notice it? The truth is simple. The 1983 P. Washington quarter isn't just a piece of change. It's a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, a reminder that miracles hide where we least expect them. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still chasing. And ordinary people just like you, are still finding treasures that most will never believe. So tonight, when you check your pockets, your jars, your old rolls of quarters, look again. Look closer. That plain old 1983 quarter could be worth more than your car, more than your house, more than you ever imagined, because this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.